There comes a time in a man's life, usually after 60, when everything he once chased begins to lose its color. The thrill of competition, the approval of others, the hunger for status or attention, suddenly, none of it matters the way it used to. The noise of the world quiets down, and for the first time, he can hear his own thoughts. That's when he begins to realize that what he truly wants from a woman isn't what he used to think it was. It's not youth, not excitement, not even beauty. It's something far quieter and infinitely more precious. When a man crosses 60, the illusions he once carried fall away like autumn leaves. He starts seeing life for what it is, not what he hoped it would be. He understands how fragile peace can be, how rare sincerity is, and how fleeting time becomes. At this point, his heart no longer looks for entertainment, it looks for rest. But here's the difficult truth. Most women today can't give what these men are searching for. Not because they're selfish or unkind, but because society has trained everyone to chase the wrong things. So today, let's talk about the 5 things men over 60 truly want from women, and why they're so hard to find. These 5 things aren't about romance as the movies show it. They're about the kind of love that feels like home after decades of wandering. Number 1, peace, not performance. By the time a man turns 60, he's fought enough battles to last several lifetimes. The constant push to succeed, the unending weight of responsibility, the years of proving himself, it all leaves its mark. What he longs for now is peace. Not silence, not isolation, but peace, a kind of emotional stillness where he doesn't have to perform to be accepted. I remember meeting a retired engineer named Robert, a widower in his mid-60s. He once told me that for decades, his life felt like an endless race. He worked 16-hour days, built his business, raised 3 children, and tried to be the rock everyone leaned on. But when his wife passed away, he realized something devastating. He had no peace left inside him. Every relationship he tried after that turned into another performance. One woman wanted him to constantly entertain her, another expected him to fix her every problem. Robert said, quietly, that what he really wanted was just someone to sit beside him in silence, someone who didn't fill every quiet moment with questions or complaints, someone whose presence felt like rest, not work. That's what peace looks like for a man who has seen enough of life's storms. It's not the absence of conversation. It's the comfort of not needing to talk to be understood. Unfortunately, many people mistake peace for dullness. They've been conditioned to believe that passion must always look like excitement, loud laughter, or conflict. But true passion is what remains after the noise fades. Think about it. When a man comes home after a long day, he doesn't want to feel like he's walking into a courtroom where every word will be analyzed or challenged. He wants to walk into a space where he can breathe, where he's not constantly being measured or corrected. He doesn't need someone who tests him to prove love. He needs someone who allows him to exhale. Peace to a man over 60 isn't luxury, it's survival. It's the medicine that keeps his heart soft and his mind steady. He's lived through too many battles to waste his remaining years fighting more of them at home. The woman who brings him peace becomes more than a partner, she becomes his refuge. But here's the irony. Many relationships fall apart precisely because one partner can't handle stillness. They confuse calm with lack of care. I once spoke to a woman named Ellen who divorced her husband after 30 years, claiming that he had become too quiet, too predictable. She later admitted that she missed the security of his presence more than the noise of their arguments. It took losing that peace to realize that calm doesn't mean cold, it often means contentment. So, for the men who have crossed that line into their 60s, peace isn't about giving up passion. It's about finding a deeper kind of love, the kind that doesn't need to prove itself every day, the kind that lets both people breathe without fear. And for the woman who can offer that, who understands that love doesn't have to be dramatic to be real, she becomes irreplaceable. Because for a man at this stage, peace is not just comfort, it's home. Number 2, respect for his past. Every man over 60 carries a story, though most won't tell it in full. The truth is written not in his words, but in the quiet lines on his face, in the way he pauses before answering, in the heaviness of his eyes. These lines tell you everything: the times he failed, the dreams he buried, the people he lost, the moments he stood tall when the world tried to crush him. What he wants from a woman now isn't pity or praise. It's respect. Respect for what he's lived through, for what he's survived. Because every scar, physical or emotional, is a reminder that he kept going when it would have been easier to quit. There's a man I once met at a veterans community center named James. He was 71, strong in spirit but quiet in demeanor. He told me that after his military service, he felt invisible. Younger people saw only his gray hair, not the decades of discipline, courage, and sacrifice behind it. His last relationship ended because the woman couldn't understand why he carried certain habits, his silence, his need for space, his occasional melancholy. She thought he was cold, but what she didn't see was that every quiet moment was his way of managing memories that still hurt. What James longed for wasn't someone to fix him, but someone who could see beyond the surface, to understand that his restraint was strength, not detachment. He wanted someone who could look at his past and honor it, not compete with it or dismiss it. Too often, people judge men by their current status or energy. They forget that the man standing before them is made of decades of experience, loss, and endurance. The woman who respects that, who doesn't demand him to erase his past or pretend it never happened, earns his deepest trust. A man who feels respected for his journey opens up in ways he never did before. When a woman says, even without words, that she sees what he's been through and honors it, something profound happens, his defenses soften. He starts to share the parts of himself he's kept hidden, not because he needs attention, but because he finally feels safe. The opposite, of course, can be heartbreaking. I once knew a couple, Arthur and Grace, who had been married for 40 years. In their later years, Grace often teased him for his cautiousness, calling him old-fashioned whenever he hesitated about trying something new. What she didn't realize was that Arthur's caution came from years of taking responsibility, raising kids, paying off debts, making sure everyone else was safe. Her constant criticism chipped away at his dignity. Eventually, he withdrew completely, speaking less and less. Grace later said she didn't understand why he had become so quiet. The truth was, he no longer felt respected for the man he had been. Respect for his past doesn't mean glorifying everything he's done, it means recognizing that every scar has a story, and those stories are the foundation of who he is now. When a woman can see those scars and still see beauty, she gives him the courage to be vulnerable again. Because vulnerability, for a man, isn't weakness, it's trust. And only respect can unlock that door. Number 3. Companionship without competition. After decades of living in competition, fighting for promotions, protecting his family, proving his worth, a man over 60 finally grows tired of the scoreboard. He no longer wants to win, he just wants peace in partnership. The world outside has always been demanding, full of comparisons and expectations. The last thing he wants is to come home and feel like he's in another battlefield. What he craves now is companionship without competition, a relationship where he doesn't have to fight for space or prove his point to feel heard. Take Daniel, a 65-year-old teacher who remarried after his first wife passed. His new partner, though caring, constantly challenged him in every conversation. Every story he shared became a debate. Every opinion turned into an argument. At first, he tried to keep up, but over time he grew weary. One evening he told me that he didn't marry to win arguments, he married to share peace. He said the saddest part wasn't that they disagreed, it was that she couldn't stop treating love like a contest. That's the tragedy of many modern relationships. People think equality means sameness. But true partnership isn't about being identical, it's about balance. A man at this stage doesn't want someone to compete with his strength, he wants someone to complement it. He's already proven himself to the world. What he wants now is harmony, someone who brings warmth where he brings structure, intuition where he brings logic. And yet, many relationships crumble because both people keep score, who gives more, who's right more often, who sacrifices more. The truth is, love starts to heal only when both let go of that scoreboard. When both people stop trying to win, something beautiful happens, the relationship finally starts to breathe. There's no more walking on eggshells, no more trying to outshine the other, no more who's right or who gave more. Instead, there's cooperation. There's ease. there's laughter again. For a man over 60, companionship isn't about romance in the way it once was. It's about rhythm. Two lives moving in sync instead of colliding. He doesn't want a partner who challenges every word he says just to prove she's strong. He already knows she's strong. What he wants is someone who uses her strength to create harmony, not tension. There's a softness that appears in a relationship when two people stop fighting for control. A friend of mine, Michael, told me that after his second marriage failed, he realized something. His ex-wife was a good woman, but she treated every discussion like a duel. It exhausted him. When he met his third wife, Clara, he said it felt different from day one. She didn't agree with everything he said, but she knew when to disagree with kindness. They didn't compete, they complemented. She brought warmth where he brought steadiness. He brought reason where she brought emotion. Now in their 70s, they spend their mornings tending to a small garden. Michael once told me that in that quiet space, pulling weeds and sharing coffee, he felt more connection than in all his years of arguments and explanations. That's what companionship without competition looks like. It's not about who leads and who follows, it's about walking together. It's realizing that love isn't a tug of war, it's a shared path. When a woman brings harmony instead of rivalry, she gives a man something he's been missing for decades, rest. And in that rest, he finds his peace again. Number 4, emotional loyalty. Physical loyalty is easy to recognize, it's visible, it's measurable. But emotional loyalty? That's where love either deepens or dies. By 60, a man has lived long enough to see all kinds of betrayal, and not all of it comes from cheating. Sometimes it comes from coldness, emotional withdrawal, or quiet indifference. It's the slow fading of affection, the way love starts to feel like obligation, the way one partner checks out mentally long before leaving physically. A man at this age doesn't need fireworks, he needs steadiness. He needs to know that when life becomes uncertain or lonely, his partner won't emotionally retreat. He needs someone who doesn't weaponize silence or use distance to punish. I once met a couple, Henry and Louise, married for nearly 50 years. They'd been through every storm, financial struggles, illness, even the loss of a child. When I asked Henry what kept their love alive, he said something simple yet profound. Louise never made him doubt her heart. Even in arguments, he knew she was on his side. She didn't hold grudges, she didn't keep score. She could disagree without disconnecting. That's emotional loyalty. It's not about perfection, it's about consistency. It's being present even when hurt, being kind even when tired, and choosing understanding over pride. Sadly, many modern relationships lose this emotional loyalty because people confuse independence with detachment. They think holding back means being strong. But to a man who's lived through decades of loss, that distance feels like rejection. There's a kind of quiet devastation in emotional disconnection. I remember a story about Frank, a 68-year-old accountant, whose wife had slowly withdrawn from their marriage. She stopped sharing her thoughts, stopped laughing at his jokes, stopped reaching out at all. When asked if they were okay, she always said she just needed space. Frank said those words, "I just need space," felt heavier than any argument. It was as if she had moved out of the relationship without ever leaving the room. That's what emotional disloyalty looks like. It's invisible but deeply painful. It erodes trust, not through betrayal, but through indifference. But when emotional loyalty is present, something almost magical happens. The man begins to soften. He becomes more generous, more affectionate, more protective. Because he finally feels safe again. He doesn't have to prove himself or worry about hidden resentment. He knows she's not halfway out the door. Her steadiness becomes his peace of mind. And at that age, peace of mind is everything. A woman who offers emotional loyalty gives him the freedom to love without fear. He stops holding back. He opens up. He trusts again. Because he knows, no matter what happens, her heart won't turn cold. Number 5, shared purpose. When a man reaches 60, his focus shifts. The question that once drove him, "What can I achieve?" turns into something deeper, "What will I leave behind?" Legacy starts to matter more than ambition. The value of each day becomes clearer because he's finally aware that time isn't endless. At this stage, he doesn't want a partner who just shares his space. He wants a partner who shares his direction. A woman who understands that the greatest joy left in life isn't taking, but building something meaningful together. That shared purpose could look different for everyone. For one couple, it might be tending a garden. For another, it might be volunteering, mentoring, or creating art. For some, it's faith. For others, it's simply nurturing the family or community they've built. I met a couple in their 70s, David and Maria, who spend every Sunday cooking meals for their local shelter. They started doing it after retirement to fill time, but soon realized it filled something far deeper, their sense of purpose. David told me that those Sundays brought them closer than any vacation ever did. They weren't just living side by side. They were building something that would outlive them. That's the essence of shared purpose. It gives aging a kind of beauty. Every wrinkle becomes a story of something built together, every memory a piece of something larger than themselves. But when there's no shared purpose, relationships start to quietly die. You can see it in couples who sit across from each other in silence, both scrolling through their phones, lost in separate worlds. They're together but disconnected. A man over 60 doesn't want that kind of emptiness. He's had enough of shallow distractions. He wants a woman who still dreams, who believes there's more to create, more to live for, more to give back. When two hearts align toward a common purpose, love becomes more than emotion, it becomes a legacy. It turns ordinary days into something sacred. He doesn't need grand gestures or endless excitement. What he needs is shared meaning. A reason to wake up with gratitude. A partner who believes in us, not just me. Because at this point in life, love without purpose feels hollow, but love with purpose feels eternal. In conclusion, when you strip away all the noise and expectations, what men over 60 truly seek is simple: peace, respect, companionship, loyalty, and purpose. These are not things money can buy. They're not found in youth, beauty, or perfection. They're built slowly, patiently, through understanding and kindness. At this stage of life, he doesn't want a lover who drains him. He wants a partner who grounds him. Someone whose presence feels like rest, not work. Someone who doesn't just stand beside him when times are good, but stays when storms hit. And when he finds her, when he meets the woman who offers peace instead of pressure, respect instead of criticism, companionship without rivalry, loyalty without games, and purpose beyond pleasure, he doesn't just fall in love. He finds home. For a man who's seen the storms of life, that feeling of home is the rarest treasure of all. It's not loud. It's not flashy. It's quiet, enduring, and real. Because in the end, love at 60 isn't about who excites you, it's about who calms you. It's not about who changes you, it's about who accepts you. And it's not about what you can take, it's about what you can build together before time runs out. So, if you're lucky enough to meet someone who gives you peace, respect, companionship, loyalty, and purpose, don't let them go. Because that kind of love doesn't just make life better, it makes it whole.